Hey and welcome, Miss Kira Speaks. Please do me a huge favor and stick around to the end of the video. Hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications. We're back for another episode of Snowfall Season 6, Episode 5? Ebony and Ivory. So this episode, everyone is tired, y'all. And we're going to see this throughout the episode. But as it opens, we see V and she's with her mom and they're doing the stakeout and they're just reminiscing, going down memory lane, all those things that they used to do. And she wants to know what is V's exit plan. V says she doesn't have one. I don't know if I believe that. Anywho, Cassandra says even if he gets his money, it won't be enough. Mama knows. So she's trying to knock some sense into V's head and she's calling him a garage store jigsaw puzzle that doesn't come with all the pieces, and basically he's going to spend the rest of his life trying to make himself whole. So as she's talking and going on and on and on, V stops her because she clocks Teddy's dad. She gets on the phone and gets in contact with Franklin, and Franklin says he can be there in 24 hours. Franklin, he's with Kane. He's annoyed because they hit up his girl's house and his girl could have been there and the kid could have been there, and he's tired and he wants Unc and Louie gone. And Franklin isn't going anywhere until they figure it out. So as they're sitting there, the TV's playing and we hear a horse and we look and we see a lady riding a horse on the TV, and those wheels is like, da-da, and a light bulb goes on for Franklin. Meanwhile, Buckley is over there filling in Louie and Unc that Kane made it out, and Franklin was there, and who's the one that shot them out of the situation. And he's like, yeah, you know that Saint Bullet, they're born shooters. I don't know if we knew that, but they're telling us that in this episode. Louie is telling Buckley she wants to be updated constantly, and Unc kind of pulls him to the side and he wants to make sure Buckley's not getting high. But we all know Buckley is getting high, and we're going to see more of that in the next episode 6. So she's mad because she could have had them, and I'm assuming when she said that, she not only meant Kane, but she meant Franklin too. So back in the PJs, we see Wanda, and she's giving Leon something for his face, maybe a frozen bag of peas, and she's like, well, that was dumb. She's asking him if he wants to see a doctor, and of course he doesn't. Meanwhile, it's a knock knock at the door, and it's a guy named Rennie. They let him in. He's got Einstein and the crew with him, and he tells them that Dion is gone. He's probably at his girl's, but he took all the product and all the cash. He's telling Leon he's probably going to be back, and if you want us to back you up, you got to have some sort of plan. He calls Leon confusing, and I cannot agree more. He says you dropping bodies, but you talking peace. You running ish and then you quit. You left with a crackhead and came back with a wife. No disrespect. I hate when people say that because it was absolute disrespect. But Leon and Wanda both managed to keep their cool. People want to be looked after and make money, and if you can't do that, you need to step aside. Rennie then basically goes on to tell him that there's no shortage of dudes that are vying for that crown, and it will be worse than Big D. So Leon is sitting there and he's thinking and contemplating what he is going to do next in his life, and then we hear Wanda say, why stop now? And I said, no, Wanda, put your foot down. Why we want you and Leon out? Go back to Africa. I know that's not what I'm going to get because it doesn't make really good for the show, but whoo. So Leon, he goes outside, he's flexing, he's challenging anybody else that wants some. You want to work? Come see me. So now he's a righteous drug dealer. And Wanda's standing there tearing up, and I was so disappointed. He just gave this whole speech in Ghana, how he was doing the same thing to his people, only to come back and not save them, but to do the same thing that he was doing before he left. Child, Gustavo, he goes to visit his lady, and he finally tells her what's going on. She does not want to do witness protection because she's worried about the CIA, that they're eventually going to find her. And she's right. There's really no place that you're going to be safe to hide from the CIA, at least not in the States. So he tells her, if you want to go, you got to go tonight. And she's like, where am I going to go with 2 kids and no money? That's a good question. So she puts her foot down. She says she's not going on the run and she's not going into witness protection. She just wants a regular, boring life, and he needs to figure it out. Made me think of Paid in Full. So we get a quick scene with Teddy, and he's telling, I think the guy's name is Habermeyer, about Gustavo and the Ruben situation. And long story short is he wants some surveillance. So Franklin goes to visit Sissy, and he tries to convince her to go because he already knows what it's about to be hitting for. And she says she's not running. And I was holding my head like, Sissy girl, this is not a smart move. So you will run with Alton, but when you're by yourself, not so much. And he's like, what are you, a martyr now? Yeah, pretty much. Because you took my money and helped me. And Sissy basically says yes, like I said. He says, we're this close to a fortune for us and future generations. And this is going to be the last tender moment that we see from Franklin this episode, is him trying to preserve Sissy's life and get her out of there. But Sissy, she doesn't listen. She doesn't want to go anywhere. Sissy is tired. Like I said, this is the tired episode, y'all. We see Teddy, and he's got some type of needle. And I said, uh-oh, because he's meeting up with Gustavo. But Gustavo right off the back is like, listen, so 2 nights ago, I was at the bar and the man in the sketch approached me. He knew everything. He threatened me. He threatened my family. He tells Teddy that they want proof of war and that they need to move the product ASAP. But Teddy is already on it and has moved the product already, which I think I said in my last recap for the last episode that would happen. And Gustavo was asking him like, oh, okay. And Teddy basically told him like, I followed you. I seen him come out and then boop, and he moved it. Long story short, Teddy says, I'm glad you told me. Yeah. I'd say so, because Gustavo just saved his own life. Later on, we get a brief scene of Gustavo calling Tony and the DEA to tell him, call it off. He moved the product. He's worried about the KGB. And before he could, hangs it up. Back in Kansas City, V and her mom are swinging their plan into action at a nursing home. While they're in the nursing home, V's mom, Cassandra, locates Teddy's dad and works her magic. She finds him outside on a bench and they're making small talk, and she suggests they make a run for it. So a little bit later, they're back, I thought it's at his place, and they're drinking and they're listening to music, and then they start dancing. Then some more small talk as they talk about divorce and Cassandra trying to find a father for V. Or she doesn't say her name, she says her daughter, so she could have one actual real parent. She says being a mother kicked her butt, and by the time she figured out how to do it right, it was too late and she didn't need her anymore. And all that basically was for listening V, because V was listening to the whole entire conversation. Back in Cali, Kane has got his guys on it. They are outside the stable and they're going to have their own little stakeout looking for Louie, and they're supposed to leave her alive. Meanwhile, Big D, he's run to talk to Louie and Jerome. He says he runs the P's and Leon will get dealt with, but in the meanwhile, he wants them to starve Leon out. Louie says they're selling to whoever's buying, and he's like, I don't even talking to you, but not exactly in those words. He tells Rome that he did right by him and he helped him set up Franklin's girls, and then it escalates and he calls Louie the B word. And I said, uh-oh, because Uncle Jerome, he excuses her, he excuses everybody in there, but then he pours them a drink. I thought maybe he was going to hit him over the head with the bottle, but no, he starts telling him that he's not going to get in the middle of it between him and Leon. He tells Big D that they're a dying breed and that these young folks, they have no respect, no code, and no honor. Big D says, no, OG, that's you, not me. And I think that was a little bit of a light bulb moment for Uncle Jerome. Because when he leaves, Uncle Jerome decides that, Louie comes back in and he decides he's going to head out with no security. And Louie's yelling behind him, asking him where he's going, but he just keeps on pushing. And I said, now he slapped Franklin not once, but twice for talking about Louie, and beat the brakes off of Black Diamond until she was no more. But Big D, that's the one you choose to give grace? I was upset with Uncle Rome. Wanda, she's over at the shelter and she's having a hard time with one of the people in there until Sissy comes to the rescue. Sissy is basically saying to her, because Wanda apologizes. Sissy says you can't save everybody. But then Wanda recounts that Alton said that sometimes people have to be taught how to accept help. Sissy's like, yeah, well, Alton saw the best in people. And Wanda's telling her, yeah, you do too. I see the way that you fight for your family and your community. And she kind of hopes that will be her one day. And then Sissy, she pours into Wanda what you love to see it. And she says, you're amazing. And she tells her she's amazing and that her ability to heal amongst all the BS, that maybe Sissy needs to be a little more like her. It's kind of good that Wanda, who should be in Africa, at least has somebody to pour into her, because I'm so disappointed with Leon at this point. But we're going to move on and not focus on that. So Jerome, he goes to pay an old friend a visit. I think his name is CJ, and I can't remember if we've seen him in seasons prior. And he was played by Hollywood from Queen Sugar, and also we just saw him in Power, it was Power, Raising Canaan. He's there to get his car fixed, and his friend is kind of like trying to get him to go that way, but he talks his way into getting the car fixed and he also wants to stay there and help him work on the car, because Uncle Rome is just having a really a self-evaluation type of moment with everything that's been going on. So there's a lot of small talk in the scene, and basically we found out that CJ is like a former dealer or a street dude, but he was smart. He put his little money to the side and he got on out the game. Meanwhile, Rome is getting pages, and we see a car go by once and we see that same car go by twice, and I notice it, and then CJ, he points it out to Uncle Rome. So what does Jerome do? He runs to the car, I think the trunk of the car, and he pulls out the strap, and CJ's like, nah, not here. Like, I need to get home to see my family. And you see everybody around him kind of running scared and scurrying. He tells Unc that he loves him, but maybe it's best for him not to be there. This was a real turning point for Uncle Jerome in terms of himself and his community. So he apologizes and he leaves, and later on we kind of see him hanging around, and he throws his pager out. Like I said, the tired episode, because Uncle Jerome is tired. So we see Franklin arrives, V picks him up, Cassandra's back at the house, giving Teddy's dad a kiss as V and Franklin come in. And it starts to get very tense. V and her mom kind of take a seat as Franklin gets there, and we know that the bullshit is about to unfold. Back in Cali, Ruben leaves his place, and he leaves his closet so it's just so Teddy and his people are watching. We can see everybody around. So as Ruben goes out and all is clear, Teddy goes in. So Teddy is searching all over this man's place with no gloves, I might add. And then he finally finds at the 12th hour, the last minute, a stash of, men's porn magazines. And later when Ruben gets home, he don't even have to do the little check, because it's clear that closet is open further than it was. And he knows that somebody's been there. Teddy is later telling his CIA friend that, being a homosexual KGB agent is a serious secret, but that's basically all that he found out. He says he wants some under 24-hour surveillance when he gets a page from a Kansas City. He gets a page from a Kansas City area code. He calls, and we already know who it is. So Teddy is on the phone trying to make small talk, like he didn't just steal this money. Like, hey, Franklin, how's it going? How you been? So Franklin's like, yeah, I'm in Kansas City, and maybe I'll take your dad out for dinner after I get my money back. And Teddy tries to call his bluff and say he don't give a F about his pops, and plus there's going to be blowback on him for him taking out a CIA agent, which he's really not with the CIA anymore, but still a CIA agent's father. And then Teddy thinks better of it, and he asks him to put his dad on the phone, and Franklin's like, listen, my accounts are the same as when you took the money. Have have William transfer it back and your dad will be okay. Franklin says, this is the last time I'm going to say it. And Teddy's like, that's not how any of this works. There's a process. Wrong answer. We see Franklin, he picks up a knife and goes over to dad. And Teddy, he sounds scared. He's asking, like, you still want to talk to your dad? Like I said, Teddy sounded like he cared, and I felt so bad for the dad, because not for Teddy, because we know Teddy's a jerk. But in the episode, they made you get so invested with this father by him sitting, and I didn't even go through all the details of him sitting and talking to Cassandra and telling his sob story and where he went wrong for his kids. So Franklin basically just tells him to transfer the money, or his woman and his kid are next. And anyone else he cares about, I'll bleed them just like I did your daddy. Yikes. Franklin tells the ladies to get out, and we basically see him putting down an accelerant, and he lights the place on fire and walks out, and that is where the episode ends. What did you guys think of the episode? That boy Franklin is not to be played with, y'all. But like I said, that moment with Sissy earlier, you just see that like all the good in Franklin is gone, and it's so sad to see. And while it was a boss ass move, and like I said, you don't play with Franklin, now you put Sissy in danger and you put V and the baby in danger. And I was just like, oh, Franklin, like you thought that was a good move, but I don't know if that was such a good move. And he proved V's mom right. So they're going to get that money and run for sure. That's if they get the money, because at this point, I don't even know if Franklin is ever getting any of that money back, if you ask me. The writing in this series is so good, and they're really stepping it up for the final season. Leave your thoughts and theories and comments down in the comment section, or just let your girl know that you stopped by, and join me back here for episode 6. I already have my notes done for episode 6, so I'm going to try to get it up ASAP. Wish me luck and peace.